Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pain Bibles channel. I had spent the weekend, this past weekend, actually with the Human Garage team, did a little bit of content with them, and I was talking to Gary a bunch, and what we were discussing was meeting people where they are rather than trying to bring people up to our level. And while I was talking to him, I had a couple ideas for videos that I'm going to be making in the future. I'm going to be trying to bring a new video every Monday and Thursday, so you guys keep it tuned. Click that subscribe button and then make sure you get the alerts every time I'm dropping new videos. I am moving a little bit more into a teaching position right now in my career. I've vastly slowed down the amount that I've been working with people on the table and even doing, computer sessions with mobility practice and things like that with people that are in pain. It doesn't mean that I'm completely done or I've completely stopped or I don't take new customers or clients. But I'm in the position right now where I can teach a lot more than I have to do. And one of the things I want you guys to understand today is the difference between tightness going in the body and tightness coming out of the body. And what we're going to do is we are going to look at the concept of tensegrity. Okay, this was first promoted by Buckminster Fuller a very long time ago, I believe in the 50s or the 60s. The guy was an absolute genius, okay, just a man amongst men. But when we are looking at anything in relation to tensegrity or a tensegrity model, this is the concept that the body is actually moving with, okay, or based off of. What we need to understand is the basic of just having tension and integrity, okay? So we see some of the models here, tension and integrity. Like, how is this thing standing, okay? How is this not just collapsing? And if you do a Google search or any other type of search for that matter, you're going to find a lot of things like this. Okay, here's one kind of representing the spine, which is really cool. This is a pretty neat structure right here. And the basic matter is just tension and integrity. That's all we are looking at, is creating tension in a system that has integrity. Okay, I don't know how many times I can really say it, but this is exactly what it looks like. We can go to page 2 here, and it basically means that, some of these will be a little bit fickle, okay? For instance, this one right here, I imagine if I cut one or two, if I cut one of these ropes or one of these posts, maybe the whole thing doesn't collapse if I cut a post, but if I cut a rope, maybe it does, okay? And then some of them can be quite complex and quite independent. Like, I imagine if I clipped something off of this, the whole structure might still stand, okay? When you are looking at the human body, we're going to go to this guy right now real quick here. Okay, when you are looking at the human body, you have, we can't even imagine how much fascia is wrapped around the muscle, in between the layers of the muscle, in between the layers of the muscle and the bone, leading in and out and around nerves and tendons, and then wrapping around our ligaments. Fascia is just all encompassing, right? So we can go and do surgery and we can clip something and then repair it, or we can actually be exercising and something busts open. Let's say we strain a hamstring right here. We're looking at the hamstring, okay? And then the body is tasked with repairing it, okay? When that injury occurred, okay, what we need to know is that that tightness was going into the body for a very, very long period of time. And then what ended up happening was it reached its rate limit. Okay, the body said, I can't get any tighter. And the force you are asking the hamstring to produce now has reached my limit. And I need to let you know because I either feel instability here in the pelvis, or I feel instability here in the knee, or I feel instability in the ankle or the foot. And what that does is it directly creates a threat to my joint structures. It could be the spine, it could be, the hip capsule, it could be the patella, it could be something along the lines over here in the ankle. And the body's always going to prioritize joints, okay, rather than muscle from getting injured. So it is going to say, I need to protect one of these joints. And in order to do that, I'm just going to blow this hamstring right here. So we had for a very long period of time, maybe you're a sprinter, you're sprinting very quickly over short or long distances. Doesn't matter. You could be 50 meter, you could be 100 meter, you could be a 400-meter sprinter. I mean, all of those, you're just going to be generating extreme torque off of the foot, going into the calf, hamstring, quad, leg, and your pelvis, right? So let's say you're a sprinter and you are overtraining, okay, which this happens quite frequently. The hamstring decides, you know what, I'm fed up, I've had enough. You're putting way too much pressure on the system, and in order to get you to slow down, I'm just gonna separate right here. And congratulations, you have a grade 1 or 2 hamstring sprain or tear, whatever you want to call it, okay? And everybody is going to recommend that you go ahead and rest, okay? For me, we need to find out where the most amount of stress was on the system, and then we're going to start working in that area. A great example is an older friend of mine. I think Seymour was around 67, 68 years old at the time, was down here in Florida. He lives in Hawaii. He was down here in Florida visiting his brother, and he went and played tennis. And he reached for a ball that he knew he couldn't get, and he tore his left hamstring. This thing was black and blue and purple from his butt cheek all the way down to his calf. I mean, it was horrendous. And his brother's a doctor, and he was like, Seymour, you're going to have to do a lot of rehab, blah, 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 in order to get that fixed and be able to play tennis again. My friend called me, and I shot over to Naples, worked on him. What I found was that his glute minimus and glute medius were uber tight. Now, Seymour travels a lot for his company, okay? And this makes perfect sense because he's sitting in really bad seats in trains and automobiles and planes, and then he's sleeping in beds that are not his, etc. So when I started to work the tissue in that glute, what ended up happening was his hamstring started to function much better. And he was actually playing golf 3 days later. His brother couldn't believe it. He actually called me up and he was screaming on the phone how crazy I am for having touched the hematoma. And to me, motion is lotion. We got to get something in there. Now, was I dropping an elbow into his hamstring and really trying to dig for buried treasure and destroy that area with pressure? No, I was working where the pain wasn't, okay? The pain was in the hamstring, and I was working in the glute. And what we found out was that the pain was actually in the glute, and that's one of the reasons that the hamstring blew, okay? So we had tightness in the glute acting like a boa constrictor for all those nerves that were running down the hamstring and then into the calf and then into the foot, okay? And when he reached for that ball, the hamstring couldn't extend because of the pressure in the gluteal area constricting those nerves, okay? If you ever heard of something called nerve flossing, this is where you take your seemingly entire body through a full range of motion, in order to release specified areas that might have entrapment, okay? So for many years, many years, this tightness was going into the glute, and then it ended up popping the hamstring to let you know, hey, I can't do that, okay? So that's tightness going into the body and creating an injury, all right? Now we're going to transfer to tightness coming out of the body, all right? when tightness is coming out of the body, this is a little bit of a paradigm shift in our thinking. This is, for instance, let's say you were a intense bodybuilder in your 20s, okay, and you tear a pec. You don't really know what you're doing, okay? Maybe you didn't get the pec surgically healed or reattached. The physio looked at you and said, you could just let this sucker reattach and heal. You'll be fine. Your pec might look a little bit weird, but you'll be okay. I mean, I've worked with Robbie Lawler in the UFC. He was a champion in the UFC, and he has a torn right bicep. This guy, I mean, the highest level, fighting at the highest level for many, 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 many years, and he tore his bicep a long time ago, and he still can knock you out, into next week if he wants to. So in some of these cases, it just shows the strength and the resiliency of the myofascial system, okay? Where you can actually tear something, you think that it's gone, but it'll just reattach to wherever it needs to. And after the pain goes away, it'll function just fine, okay? So let's say that you tear a pec in your 20s, you don't really know what you're doing, you let it heal, no more pain, and you go back to just training, okay? And you end up reaching a level, okay? Let's say you get to around, 315 for a set of 5, 8, 10, something like that. And you come down and you press back up, and all of a sudden you feel that familiar pain, and you're like, oh no, I think I tore my pec again. You go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, no, everything's okay. Everything's totally fine. Well, what gives? What is this? Is it a strain? Oh, yeah, it's probably a strain, whatever. And in my case, what I've found is that if there is seemingly no new injury, what you're doing is you are getting to a point or a place where your body is actually healing in reverse. And this typically is only going to come about when you are doing the work. Okay, so if you've bought my books or if you've purchased my programs and you are doing work on yourself consistently every single day, and these old injuries kind of pop out of nowhere, what this is you're healing in reverse. Your body is getting younger every single day, every single week, every single month. And you're healing aspects or injuries that have been buried for a long period of time. Okay? I have been dealing with a lot of clients lately, especially with the energy out there in the cosmos. Okay? I've been dealing with a lot of clients that have been coming to me lately where they have been having tightness come out of the body. Okay, they've been working with me for a very long period of time, so their body is actually healing in reverse. Okay, they're getting younger and younger, and what we're doing is we're digging out problems that they've created. I got one guy in his pec, I got one guy in his hamstring, I got one guy in the glute and the lower back. Okay. And then I had another guy, left side, where it was everything from his back all the way down into his shin. Okay, so it's kind of like it was this entire area. And what ended up happening, what we found out was that he broke his collarbone maybe about 12 years ago or something like that. And his body was actually putting a lot more pressure, okay, in order to take care of that. And what he was doing was he was overcompensating on his left leg. Okay, so his body wanted to kind of stay away from the right side to not put as much pressure up into that left collarbone. So his left leg was doing a lot more work. And when we were working everything out, he started to feel tremendously better. And he said, I didn't have any injury. I don't know what's going on. And I told him that this is tightness coming out of the body. Okay, so this typically only happens when we're on the mend. All right, if you've had a horrific injury that you buried and you've been trying to use a lot of westernized medical solutions, chiropractic, okay, I tell people all the time what's connected to the spine but the muscles and the fascia. So is it the spine that's subluxing itself, Or is it the muscles and the fascia that are creating aberrant patterns that are pulling the transverse process and thus the spine out of where it's supposed to be or out of alignment? Okay, it's probably that. All right, it's not your spine. So when we just pop the spine back into place, yeah, congratulations, we're putting those Jenga blocks back in, but something's going to shake them right back out. And it's usually the angle of pull or the tightness that you have in specific muscle groups, or just tension in the fascia, okay? Emotional tension, you name it, okay? Trauma, you name it, all right? So as a summary, basically tensegrity, you look at all of these rubber bands, they all have the same amount of tension and they're holding everything in place, okay? And then as we traverse life and we have emotional trauma, you get in a car accident when you're 12, okay? You have something really, a really bad whooping cough when you're 6 years old, and you're coughing for 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. You're straining all these intercostals, all these back muscles. Maybe you popped out a rib, something like that. And you just go to the chiropractor, you get it readjusted, and you think that you're cool, but there's a lot of trauma related to that. Maybe you experienced the death of your parents when you're 16, or the death of a friend when you're 16, and all that trauma gets stored in the gut, or it gets stored around the neck or the upper back. Okay, we got to think about a lot of these things that are going on, and now the tension and the integrity in the system is not the same. Okay, all these balloons, all these segments, all these containers that we have now are kind of doing their own thing, okay? And they're trying to mitigate not only gravity or the physical damage that we're getting through sports or weight training, but then also all of the emotional problems that we might be having, or through a bad diet, are the organs that are having problems with the food that we're eating, okay? There are so many things, and this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to get out of the biz, why I'm getting out of the business of doing and getting into the business of teaching, is because there are so many aspects of human health that what I do as a practitioner on a massage table don't even touch. And everybody wants to come to me and ask, when can I return to sport? When can I do muscle ups again? When am I going to be able to deadlift again? When can I run again? When can I go back to work again? And I look at them and I say, I don't know. What's the rest of your life like? What's your food consumption look like? How are your stress levels? How's your sleep? What sort of exercise are you getting daily? Are you in love with the people that are in your life, that they just cause you stress? There's so many things that we need to look at in order to decipher whether or not you're going to be returning quickly or whether it's going to take a really long period of time. Okay, so I hope this video made sense. Leave some comments down below for me about what you would like to hear further moving forward. I have a lot of content ideas that I'm going to be releasing in the coming weeks, okay? But let me know in the comments what you would like to hear more from me, and I will make those videos for you moving forward. Once again, hope it made sense. Chris Kadowski signing off. And I love every single one of you that are here. And if you want to learn more, subscribe and click that like button for me. And make sure that you're getting the alerts every time I drop a new one. All right? Peace, love, and aloha.